We're here in my Evolution Stoneware Pottery Studio for our next flute segment. Today we're doing circular flutes, which are super cool. I love these. They're so unique. If you can make the actual donut or toroid or whatever you want to call this hollow walled ring here, making it make sound and popping some notes on it is super easy. So we're going to make one today that's going to be a very simple version. I have two other videos that you might want to watch in preparation for making your circular flute. The first video will show you how to make this hollow donut. So this is wheel thrown. It's a double-walled vessel and sometimes called a toroid or a toroidal pot. And then this guy is a little piece that I threw off the hump, and this is an optional piece that you can use or not to add a sound bell to your flute. So I have another video on throwing these off the hump. Once you've thrown your donut or your ring, trim it and let it set up to a medium or a hard leather hard. At this point, we're ready to go ahead and put holes in it to actually turn it into a flute. I'd like to quickly try to tune this one to D minor. The measurements for this ring are 6.5 outer diameter, a little bit over 4 for the inner diameter, around 4, and then this is about 1 3/8 inches tall. The measurements of your ring are not critical, but I just want to give you a baseline of what I'm working with in case you're wondering. I've found the size to work pretty well for me. The first thing that we need to do to turn this into a flute is to make a blowhole. That'll also be our sound hole, because on this particular one I'm not going to add a sound bell, but I will show you how to do that. I'm going to start with about a 5/16 hole cutter, and I'm working on the side that I think was the bottom of my pot when I threw it, because the top side will have a part where the two walls were joined together that'll be a little uneven on the inside. It's not critical that you make that the bottom of your flute, but I think it's a little bit easier to get the holes cleanly through if you do it on what was originally the bottom of your ring. I'm not actually sure what was what when I made this, so I'm taking a guess and I'm going with this side. On the very top of the ring, I want to put a hole straight down, and I want to keep the edge nice and sharp, because having that sharp edge is critical to having this make sound. Just stick my hole cutter in and just twist and pull it out. You don't want to rock your hole cutter side to side while it's in there. And you don't want to do anything to smooth this edge for the blowhole. Now, when I blow into it, I should have sound. I do. This is very faint though, because it's a really low note. It's down at about a B. I think I'm going to try to make this something around a D, and in order to do that, I'm going to need to make the hole bigger. Bigger holes make your notes go higher. For now, to enlarge this, I'm going to take the same hole cutter and just kind of expand it off to one side. It's best to do this a little bit at a time if you're shooting to get this in a particular key. I'm using my phone here with a tuner app that's called CarlTune. CarlTune. There are tons of free tuner apps. This is an Android phone that I'm running here. And the way that this app works is it listens to whatever notes that it hears, and it tells you on the screen what the note is. You don't have to tune your flute, but I am going to be using that to tune mine. So I enlarged this blowhole a little bit, and let's see what happens. A much clearer note now. That's a very nice C, very mellow. I think I'm going to make this hole still a little bit bigger and try to get up around a D. Right now I'm using an X-Acto knife or a craft knife, sort of freehand this hole. Once we get the sound hole, if you're not tuning yours, man, just stop at whatever sound you like and move on. We're at C sharp now. Still gonna need to make it bigger. Trying to get all my little shavings out from the inside. These really tend to build up as you're making the holes. Almost right at a D. Oops. Okay, that looks good. I think I'll stop there. So this is what my hole looks like. You can see it's not actually round or even a perfect oval, but the thing is that that edge is a really sharp edge right there. And that's key for making sound. Now what you want to do is imagine you're holding this up and playing it in a way that you'll have some little holes down here that you move your fingers to make different notes with. So get your hands in a comfortable position. I generally find that to be at about halfway around the circle and then down toward the bottom. So what I'll do is get my hands there and then use my fingernails to kind of press in and make a little mark for where my fingers are. You can see I'm really not being exact with this, but now I have some little marks here that show my finger locations. And using this tuner app, I'm going to go ahead and try to tune this to a D minor pentatonic. So I've got my D bass note. I'm going to make this so that the notes ascend, starting with my right hand at the bottom. Then boop, 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 boop. That'll be how it's going to go. So I'm going to start with this note. I'm going to take a small hole cutter. This is about 3/16. Find that first fingernail mark and just drop a hole in right there. Okay, let's see what note we have. Alright, we're almost at an F. Maybe we are at an F, and conveniently enough, F is the first or the second note that I want in the D minor pentatonic. Kind of depends on how hard you're blowing as to whether that comes on as a crisp F or if it's a little bit flat. I'm going to use this Kemper multi-drill tool to enlarge the top of the hole just a little bit. Clean that out a tiny bit, get my needle in there. Let's recheck our note. I really feel like that is pretty darn close. I'm going to go ahead and use this X-Acto knife to very gently bevel the top edge of this hole. The purpose of doing this is it makes it a little bit easier for my finger to nestle on and cover up that hole all the way without any air leaking out. dropped more clay inside. Okay, so here's the bevel. You can see this is definitely sensitive to how hard you blow it. Let's go ahead and make our next hole. That was an F. We're going to want to go up to a G. I'm going to use this, I'm going to use this 3/16 hole cutter again. Go right where I marked my middle finger, put this hole in, and we'll test it. If you don't want to tune yours, just go ahead and make some holes on those points where we marked and fire it and play it and love it. Alright, we're almost right at that G. I am excited about that. So right now we have D, F, and G tuned. The reason why I'm doing minor pentatonic is that's a really common scale that's used in something like Native American flutes, and it's just very pleasant, can be somewhat haunting, but a very pretty scale to use for flutes. And I already did major scale. I've done a major pentatonic, and I also did the full major scale on the transverse flute. Let's make our next hole. It's going to be an A. I know from experience that this is probably going to need to be a bigger hole, but I'll just show you, and I'll start with that same hole cutter, and we'll see what we get. G sharp. So see, we are definitely going to need to make this bigger. I'm going to start cutting it bigger all the way around with my X-Acto knife. When you do that, you want to make sure that the inner wall is just as wide as the outside. Getting closer to an A, make it bigger still. That's pretty good. Let's see if I can add a little bevel here. Wow, I think my dogs are having a pretty good time upstairs. It's getting to be about dinner time, and one of my dogs, Luna, tends to get totally insane like an hour before dinner. Call it the witching hour. Cool. Let's hop over here and make our next note. So I'm getting a B, and what I want, ideally, is to have a C for that note. So I'm going to make this bigger. This time I'm going to use this Kemper multi-drill tool. It's kind of a neat thing. You can make holes in a stepwise fashion, although you will get to a point where you get too deep and you'll poke out the bottom. So if you're using one of these, be careful about that. Let's see what we got. All right, I'm up at C sharp here. That's a bummer. That means I made the hole too big. Don't worry though, we can recover, but I do need to add some clay to make this hole smaller now. So I'm gonna pinch off a little bit of clay, get this wet, and put it in the hole here. Get the excess off. I'm using my needle tool to kind of squish that clay in around the edge of the hole. Glory be. I'm right at the C that I wanted. That's great. I'm going to try to clean up the edge a little bit here. Perfect. Okay. We only have one more note to tune. Very cool. We're almost done. See how quick this is, you guys. You can totally do this. Again, I'll take my 3/16, put it over here where my middle finger is going to go, pop that hole in. We'll see what the note is. This time we're looking for the octave, so all the way from C to D. Needs to be a little bit bigger. Spent a lot of time shaking the little clay bits out the mouthpiece here. Okay. Almost. That looks pretty good. I will hand bevel the edge of this hole. Pentatonic means 5, so we have our root note with everything closed. That's 1. Then we have 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this is the octave. That means the same note but a whole octave higher. So we've got these 5 notes. Pretty cool. A couple of thoughts at this point. When you make your blowhole, you want to leave that edge really hard. It's cool to bevel your finger holes, but do not bevel the edge or even smooth it over with a sponge, this blowhole. You need that edge to be a sharp edge in order for the air that you blow across it to make a note. So don't mess with the blowhole after you get going. The size of your ring or donut, the size of your blowhole, and the size and whether or not you add a sound bell, those factors are going to impact what key your instrument is going to be in. So that first note with no other finger note holes made, nothing open, just the blowhole, that's the key that your instrument's going to be in. Then from there, you can choose a scale that you want to work with. You don't have to do minor pentatonic. I just thought it would be pretty cool, something different from that major scale that I did on a transverse flute tuning video. So that you guys can see what's happening with the tuner here, hopefully. There's your full D minor pentatonic scale. That didn't take long at all. You guys, I love, love, love these circular flutes. It's just like the coolest thing. I mean, have you ever seen an instrument that looks like this? I just adore them so much. They're crazy, they're logic defying. There's no outlet for the sound, it's just all, you blow in the mouthpiece and it comes out the same hole. You can tune these pretty easily. They're easy to hold on to. You can see your fingers while you're playing to know how you're going to play your song and get your fingers back on the right holes. You could do any kind of scale that you want, but I think the major and minor pentatonic are great choices for your flute. I hope you guys have a ton of fun with this. Send me pictures of what you make. When it comes to finishing these, there are lots of choices, so let me fill you in on that. As far as glazing this, with the other ones that I made, I used colored slip and on-gobe on them. You could glaze the outside, although I wouldn't put glaze on the inside. And then you'll probably want to add some sort of little feet or something on the bottom side so that you'll have a little unglazed area to keep this up off the shelf. Cool thing that you can do with the little feet is put holes through them, and then you could use that to put a rope or a cord through it so you could have this around your neck if you wanted to go hiking around with your circular flute at all times. Because I know you do. Alright, you can also add some texture to your flutes if you want. This one is pretty hard, leather hard, but I'm going to try to add a little texture using one of my texture rollers here. And I have videos on how to make and use these. But I'm just going to take this one. I'm going to try not to actually roll it over my blowhole or my sound holes, but I'm going to apply it on the top here with a little bit of pressure and roll around. Now let's add some little feet on the bottom. I'm going to put, here's the blowhole, I'm going to turn that around. I'm going to put two here and here and then one down here. So it'll give us 3 points for this to sit on. So it's going to be here, here, and here. Go ahead and just do a little bit of scoring. A little ball of clay. I'm going to make a little coil. So I'm going to take my coil and I'm going to kind of thin it down a little bit in the middle. And bend it over. Do this for all 3. So you could just put little balls on there, but I like to leave a little gap here in case you want to hang this on a strap. Oh, let's just work this on here. Kind of move it side to side a little bit. And that helps me make sure that it's joined well. You wouldn't have to make your lugs this big. I want to make sure I have a pretty good size opening here personally in case somebody wants to use something like paracord or possibly a thick leather strap to hold this. That's it in a nutshell as far as adding some little feet so that you can glaze this, and then having these also act as a rope holder for you. You could spend as much time and make these as ornate or beautiful as you'd like to, but just for the sake of demonstration, this is the general idea of how you could approach that. Ooh, one thing to note on these little feet is you'll want to make sure that you don't put them where you'll be holding the flute on the bottom. So if you've got your hands in position to play the flute, you don't want your feet to be interfering with where your thumb's going to be on the bottom of the flute. If you'd rather have your flute have a bell on it, check this out. I'll show you how to put your bell on it. And I would probably go ahead and put the sound bell on before you start adding holes to tune it. It's probably abundantly clear by now that I think these circular flutes are super cool. I just love these, you guys. The novelty of it, it's just kind of mind-blowing that this round donut makes a sound and you can tune it and play this as a regular flute. I think it's just so cool. I hope you guys enjoy this project, and I'd love to see how you make your own flutes and how you finish them if you decide to tackle making some circular flutes. So send me pictures. Connect with me on Facebook at Evolution Stoneware Pottery. And I hope I'll hear from you. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have a really fabulous day. See you later. Bye.